and I used to call it the bench of doom. All the unsuccessful PTs, the ones that were failing, they all hung out with each other at the bench near reception, and you'd see one of them that's hanging around the bench for 3 months and you knew they were on their way out, and then all of a sudden they've disappeared out of the club. And they did nothing but whinge and bitch about the club, about not getting enough leads.
Hi there, my name's Dave Burgess. I'm sitting here with Phil Kolaric. We're going to be doing a podcast today based on trainers and coaches and how to get the most out of your business. We've got something called the business mentorship, which we're going to be talking quite a lot about, and it's focused on how to take you from a brand new coach or trainer into a six-figure coach or beyond.
Like online courses. So how can you have a job that's all practical? There's literally the whole thing is practical. Yeah, have an online course.
Yeah, I think obviously, the reason why companies are doing it because it's so much more profitable to do it that way. For a lot of students, they think it's going to be easier. That's the carrot that gets dangled. They think it's going to be easier, so I can do it when I want, in my own time. But they don't think through about, number one, the amount of videos that you've got to do. If you get the videos roll, so you submit them, they give you feedback. You've got to go back in the gym. You've got to organise people to come in and actually do the session with you. You've got to organise groups of people. You've got to do consultations, all of those things. Before you even start, we've got heaps of students at the moment that are coming back through us. And they're almost paid for 2 courses at the moment because they paid first time around to do it online. They thought it was going to be easier. It turned out to be a shit fight. And the other part is that they understand they're not going to be ready, because how can you possibly be ready to go and know that you've got the confidence to train people when you've finished a course and you've never trained anyone? It's all you've just ticked the boxes on all it. It's crazy.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the worst things that they do as well is some of them you need to go find a mentor. So what they do is they find one of their mates or a family friend or something who happens to be a personal trainer.
Yep.
And they just go into the gym, don't actually do any of the mentoring, just get the boxes ticked just to get the course done.
Yeah. And it's set up that way because then the mentor gets paid. The student gets ticked off. Everyone's a winner there. But the real loser is the trainer at the end of the day, because if you're going out there and you want to compete at a really high level, you want to be a 6-figure coach, then surely you need to understand the systems, the processes, understand the skill sets, everything you require to become a 6-figure coach. And how do you do that if you're dealing with a mentor that's probably lowballing, that's doing half of that? So what you're actually learning from is someone that hasn't got the knowledge, skills, systems, processes or anything, but yet you think that by shadowing that person that you're going to be twice as good as them.
Well, I think what happens is they think because students come through, because I train myself, I know how to train people. And then when they get into the real world and they actually have to start generating business of themselves, then they learn very quickly that it's a lot harder than you think. And people just don't run up to you and want to train with you.
Well, that's the thing. I used to always think I'll pop my PT shirt on and then people will just flock. Or I'll walk around the shopping centre and be like, oh, you're a personal trainer, and then just come up and approach you. I don't know what I was thinking. But having said that, a lot of our students think the same thing. They don't realise how much work's actually involved into getting clients.
Yeah, 100%. Like, that is the job, isn't it? That's the hard part of the job. The easy part is training people. That's what everyone wants to do. You want to count the reps, motivate people, check in with your clients. That's all the fun stuff. The hard part of the job is the getting business. That is the job, basically.
Exactly right. So the interesting with fitness qualifications as well, obviously you go through a whole bunch of different units of competency. The one thing that's really lacking in most fitness courses, and at the end of the day, it's certificate 3 and 4 of fitness. It's not business, but it is the business modules. And it is, even with the business modules, they don't really, they're not built for personal training. I mean, it could be built for a plumber or an electrician or whatever. It's a unit of competency. It's not specific to the fitness industry. So unfortunately, the real reason that the business mentorship came around is because I just seen way too many good trainers, great trainers that should have gone on and done incredibly well. And they just, unfortunately, they wasted their potential. The reason they wasted their potential was because they didn't have any idea of how to run the business. They didn't have any systems in place. They didn't even know how to put a system in place, or what system was even lacking in the business. So lead generation, the initial consultations, how to convert an interested, maybe even a member of the gym into a regular investing client. Next thing, they're out the door.
Yeah, 100%. Like I would say, do other PT courses, do they have to have business in there at all? Is that part of the modules or not?
Yeah, there's. I think there's only one module these days, though. There used to be four, but even then, once again, the things that they would ask you to do in those units of competency weren't setting you up for the fitness industry, because what the fitness package did is they just took 4 units from a business course. So it was based on stock takes and a bunch of other things. It wasn't even relevant to PT.
Oh yeah, when I look, obviously before, as you know, before I did my PT course, I did my degree, business degree. Without that, I would have had no chance. I would have had no idea. At least the business degree got me thinking about business, how to run a business. Had you got your mind thinking about lead generation, about systems, about following up, about customer service, all those sorts of stuff. And I look back now, if I hadn't done that, I probably would have been one of the statistics.
Yep.
You know, it's a high turnover industry, as we know, and I was lucky I had those skills. So at least I was thinking that way. But even then, on top of the business degree that I did, as soon as I finished my course, I started doing short courses, all business orientated, specifically for the fitness industry, just to upskill myself.
Well, I wasn't that smart. So what I did is I was really lacking when I finished when I first went out, and so I just did the things that I wanted to do. So I did the courses around strength and conditioning. I did level 1, level 2. I did my sports trainer. I did my powerlifting, my weightlifting certificates. I did all practical certificates. So I was probably one of the most qualified trainers out there without any fucking clients. You know, like it just didn't make any sense, but I just did what I wanted to do. When I knew what I should have done was the marketing, was the sales, was more of the business orientated stuff, but that's not the stuff I wanted to do. So I shied away from that, and I see so many people doing the same thing. Or they just want to go and do an online course, like how do I become an online coach? Now, and they go down that avenue. They think that, once again, it's almost like putting the shirt on. If I go and do this online course, but the online course, obviously, it doesn't teach you the marketing skills, the business, the fundamentals, the finances, anything that you really want. If you ask most trainers what they want to scale their business. So if you ask them, well, how do you scale your business? They think it's just a client base. But if you build your client base and you've got none of the foundations in place, how are you actually meant to scale to something big?
Yeah. Oh, if you haven't got no systems in place, it's just a revolving door of clients, isn't it? They're in and they're out the door because you're not delivering customer service, you haven't got the follow-up, you haven't got the retention, you're not onboarding them properly. Like we've seen that plenty of times before with trainers. You're good at getting a client, but you're not good at keeping a client.
Exactly
right. One more thing. I was just thinking about retention just then. I went through my client list and I think there was like 10 clients I've got at the moment, 10 years plus. Hell of a lot easier to keep those people than is find new people.
Exactly right. I mean, how much does it cost you to get a new client? That's not something that's even taught. So, cost per acquisition or cost per client, you've got your ad spend, you're getting that person in. And from there, if you only keep them, 1 week, 1 month, then it's a fair turnover. You're not becoming highly profitable. If you're able to keep that person, deliver really good customer service, there's a point there, especially as an in-club trainer, where you then don't have to advertise. You're full.
Yeah, you don't at all.
So there's no advertising spend or cost that's going out. So basically a lot more income, a lot less expenses, a lot more profitable. And at the end of the day, it's what most people want.
Yeah, 100%. If you're a trainer at a club and you're doing 40 sessions a week, generally you're not doing much lead gen at all. You might spend 5% of your week dealing with leads, doing a bit of content, following up with people. The rest of the time, you're just doing the good part, which is training people and counting your money, really.
Exactly right. And then with that money, I mean, the carrot dangles, doesn't it, for those online coaches, and they want to go there because they feel like they're going to make more money. In actual fact, I think if we looked at it, the guys that do really well online do really well. They're making the big bucks. I mean, technically, hundreds of thousands per month. The really big guys. Now, what kind of percentage will get to that? We're talking 0.0 something. The other guys that do really well, you're probably looking at 3 or 4K a week. Which once again is fantastic because there's no face-to-face time, but you're still having to put a shit ton of systems in place to be able to deal with that customer service, chasing up missed payments, all of those kind of things. Now, when a lot of trainers, when we talk about doing 30 to 40 sessions a week, they're earning 3 to 4K. Now, if you drag that money out, I mean, what do you need? Maybe your costs, etc., all up in running that business, $1,000, put something of your own through the business, so that you're minimising your tax, etc., and you're probably at $1,500. So, I mean, you're literally dragging $1,000 a week away and putting it into other things like investments. And you're one of the best I've ever seen at that. Now with a multi-million-dollar property portfolio as a trainer, there's not many guys that can get around and say, hey, look, I've been a in-club trainer. Now I know you've done a lot of online stuff as well, but have built a multi-million-dollar property portfolio predominantly of face-to-face training.
Oh, it's not even predominantly, it's 100% basically. That's where it all came from.
Yep.
There's being nothing else except from personal training. That's how it all grew, 100%. Yep.
And then it's just getting smart, right? So you've been quite frugal at different points as well, and you drag that out and you've put that into more properties. That property's then grown. A little bit of equity comes out of that, but it's been continuously putting that, $1,000, $1,500 a week or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. It's about planning ahead, putting money aside each week, but you can't do any of that unless you build a successful business. So I 100% know that, hey, unless I'm building a business and I'm bringing in cash, I can't do any investments that I want to do. So yeah, it's all about building a business for sure.
Well, just on that, one of the real reasons that I always wanted you to be involved in our business mentorship and be the actual mentor for the students is because you are the one person I think has walked the walk, talked the talk. We hear so many others jump on, especially Insta with their ads and things like that. And I had this particular business. I was a successful online coach making 7 or 8 figure incomes. No one's ever heard of them, number one, right? They don't tell you which business that they had, so that they're talking at their ass. They've got a bunch of bought followers, and now they're flogging off some course teaching you how to do it, So for me, the reason I always wanted to have you on board is because of the results that you've got. The other thing is from a coaching point of view, you're the best mentor that I've seen, especially in face-to-face with the students. So what I always wanted to do is send out NHFA students to your club, because I knew that they were going to get really great mentoring. The thing that has killed me over time, has pissed me off more than probably anything else, is we produce these great students and they're keen, they're ready, they're eager, but they do still need some mentoring, especially around the business. They go to a great club and the club might be brilliant. It's a brand new club. It might be huge. It's got 4,000 to 6,000 members. Everything is sitting there, but they just need some mentoring. And unfortunately, the personal training manager or the manager in the club is shit, okay? And they just might not have the knowledge, the skills that that trainer needs, or maybe sometimes they've just checked out. They just don't want to be in that role anymore, and therefore the student that gets started in that club, which should be the best time of their life, is left without a mentor and someone to actually show them and guide them. And once again, 6 months, they're out the door, when it shouldn't be that way. So the one thing that I wanted to have for our students, and the really key part here, is that I wanted them to be able to go to any club that they wanted to go to. So if they walked in the club and it felt good, so if they wanted to go into a Gold Coast or a Sydney or wherever it was, they'd still have a really great mentor regardless of where they were. It wasn't just based on, hey, if I go into this club here, this is my personal training manager, so this is going to be my mentor moving forward. With you, it doesn't matter which club they start at, they're always going to have you as a mentor to help motivate them, guide them, put them in the right direction.
Well, the reality is that the PT management role really isn't a mentor role. It's a recruitment role. That's what it is. Their job is to recruit trainers. They get paid a commission based on recruiting trainers, and then the afterthought is, all right, now I've got to mentor them to be successful. But the number one goal is recruit trainers. And when I was doing that role, I knew that obviously I had to bring on trainers, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to put my balls on the line. If I'm going to bring trainers on, I'm going to bloody make them successful.
Yep.
So I've got to make sure that I'm the best possible mentor to every single trainer. Look, they've still got to do the work, so there's no substitute for them doing the work, but I'm going to make sure that I give them 100% of my time. I'm going to give them all the skills, all the knowledge, all the support they're ever going to need to be successful. So I'll open the door. They have to walk through the door. And I think that's the difference. I think PT managers get burnt out by the recruitment. And when they get burnt out by the recruitment, then they get over the job. They don't want to be there anymore. It becomes a drain being there all day. And the job is recruitment and then dealing with trainers that are pissed off because they're not successful. And that's where you get the revolving door, unfortunately. So I think you're right, 100%. The job should be a mentor job, but it's not. It's not at all. So, I'm loving the business course. I love mentoring. It's right up my alley. like you mentioned, all business models. So boot camp, small group training, online, face-to-face PT. I've had experience with all of them over the last 15 years, been successful with all of them. So 100% confident. If you give people the right skills, the knowledge of the systems, as long as they do the work, they'll be successful. And the good thing about personal training is, I always say this to personal trainers, the first personal training is really, really, really hard at the beginning. It's super hard because you're literally doing 0 sessions, but you're doing 100% lead gen. But as you get busy, the beautiful thing about personal training is it gets way, way easier. Because once you get your first few clients, then all of a sudden it's 10% training people, 90% lead gen. Then you get some more clients, it now becomes 50% lead gen, 50% training people. And as you get super busy, it gets super easy because now you're doing 90% training people and only 10% lead gen. So that first 12 weeks to 6 months is absolutely critical.
Yep.
If you don't have the right systems in place, the right support network, the right mentoring, it can be very, very tough. And we've seen, how many trainers have we seen go out the door within the minimum term, 6 months?
Exactly right.
And they were great trainers, great people, great trainers, and then they get burnt out. And you know what? They actually walk, not only have they got a failed business, but then they actually resent the fitness industry,
Yep.
which is even worse.
Exactly right. It's interesting, you know, when I first started as a PT, I was so keen, I was so eager. You know, the challenge for me wasn't my motivation. I would do whatever it took. It was just I didn't know what to do. And I think that's where the mentoring, that's where the coaching really comes into play. And that's what so many people like myself have missed over the years. So just tell me what to do and I'll do it. But there's no one there to tell them exactly what to do or how to do it. So hence, once again, the business mentorship, why that's been put in place is module by module, week by week. And the one thing that I really wanted to keep in there, and it wasn't just designing another online course. This one here, you've got a year's access. So you can go through the content as much as you like. But the real beauty of this is having live mentoring on a weekly basis. But above and beyond that is having an 8-week structured mentorship. This is what you do on week 1. Here's all your tasks to get done on week 1, right? So you don't sit there and go, I'm ready to go, but I don't know what to do. Now you'll know exactly what to do, and then there's screen recordings. There's a bunch of things that shows you exactly how to implement what we're telling you to implement as well. So it's not just, okay, what you need to do is go and do lead generation. How do I do that? Oh, well, it's up to you. Like that's what most PTMs are giving the traders at the moment. So for us, it's about structuring things so they've got an 8-week mentorship, step-by-step implementation, so that at the end of that 8 weeks, you've got all the foundations you need. Then you've still got a year of mentoring, of live mentoring with you, and me jumping on sometimes as well to make sure that they become, you know, not just make it, but at the end of it, we want them to make it big. You know, the whole goal for us is to make sure that our trainers are coming through on a 6-figure and beyond.
Oh, 100%. Can you imagine the difference between a trainer who's gone through another RTO, who's just done a course that's all online, basically very little business training, compared to a student who's gone through NHFA, done the business mentorship? Imagine if those two PTs started at the same time. It would be chalk and cheese, wouldn't it?
Well, the thing is that, you know, for me, and I feel like for most PTs when they first get started, what should be the best time of their life is not. It's actually almost the most challenging time. It goes right back, and I've been sharing this with the students quite a lot, you know, over the last few years. But I think back to when I first started my course, and I had a lot of people that were trying to talk me out of it, that there's so many PTs out there, the industry's flooded, which is still the same shit we hear now, right? Like it's still, like I did mine back in 2006 and it's still the same now. But, you know, there was a lot of people that suggested that I wouldn't do well, or that the circumstances, the world, etc., that's just too hard to make it. And so then when I was going through what I wanted to do, I just didn't want to get my qualifications. I wanted to be the best PT that I could be. And I knew that I had some, even in my other jobs, I kind of knew that I was playing small. I knew I had more to offer. I didn't know what, but I thought I could be a really great PT. So when I've been going through the course, I've had to make some real changes. That's the main changes I had to make was my standards about certain things. So you know, for me, I stopped going out, stopped getting on the piss so much with the boys. I was still playing sport and things like that, which was good, but, you know, not partying as much after I played, maybe go for a couple of beers and go home, because I wanted to be fresh and I wanted to study the next day. At that point there, a lot of people start to maybe hang shit on you or put a bit of pressure on you because you're starting to change and they can see the change in you. You're striving for something else or striving for something different. And I feel like many people get to that crossroads period in their life. That's often somewhere with, 20 to 25, depending. And they get to that crossroad, they go, which way do I want to go here? Is this the way I want to keep living my life, or do I want something with my career? And for me, I really want to do something with my career here. And I don't want to be in the jobs that I'm doing. I think I'm playing small, I'm capable of more, and I really want to be a PT. What am I passionate about? What difference can I make? What's going to make me happy? And they're the questions that I ask, and that's why I chose to do the course, and that's why I chose to then do a lot more study and things like that. But what that did is it actually started to create a bit of loneliness in my life. It started to then sort of separate me and my friends. You're not hanging out with them as much anymore because they're either a little bit of a distraction or maybe a bad influence sometimes. It's like, let's catch up. Cool. What do you want to do? Let's go to the pub. And I wanted to stay away from that. And then all of a sudden the guys be, like that whole cliche, hey, you're changing or you're starting to change. And I was changing. But the challenge was that when I started as a PT, I still didn't have, I'd sort of separated myself from my friends at the time, but I didn't have new friends. So I was quite lonely at that point. Then you've started, and this is the killer, and this is where I feel like a lot of people come undone. You've started in the club, and it's not going well, because it definitely wasn't for me. I was really battling, and I was doing initial consultations. People weren't getting started with me, so I felt like there was a lot of rejection going on as well. Out of 10 consultations, maybe one person would get started. So when you're getting that many no's, your confidence is definitely not high. And then you start listening to the things that other people said to you at the time. It's going to be really hard, you won't make it, etc. And you feel like, you are failing, but it's so lonely because you don't want to tell anyone that you're not doing well as well, because they're all sitting there waiting. They're waiting for them to say, hey, well, I told you so. And so then you've got no mentor, no guidance, no money coming in, no life choices. And it's a lonely, lonely time.
Yeah, 100% agree. And I think where you're going with that is it's your circle of influence, isn't it? So you're the sum of the 5 people you hang around with the most. So if you're going to be hanging around with people that are dragging you down, pulling you down, you're going to be some of those 5 people. If you want to be successful, you've got to be around successful people, don't you? So, for example, just me and you sitting right here. I see how hard you work, you bust your ass on all the courses that we're growing. That motivates me to work my butt off. Likewise, if you're a trainer in a club, I'd want to be hanging around with other successful trainers. What are the successful trainers doing? What are people doing that I want to do? So look for mentors. Have that person done what I want to do? So for example, with a business mentorship, you're going to be with a whole bunch of other students that want to be high performers. You're going to be mentored by high performers. So you're just creating an environment and community to set yourself up for success. Like you've seen PT clubs before. So I remember at my club, we used to have a bench, and I used to call it the bench of doom, because the bench of doom, all the unsuccessful PTs, the ones that were failing, did nothing to work on their business. They all hung out with each other at the bench near reception, and you'd see one of them that's hanging around the bench for 3 months, and you knew they were on their way out, and then all of a sudden they've disappeared out of the club. And then you see the next one along to the bench of doom. And they did nothing but whinge and bitch about the club, about not getting enough leads. So you can be hanging around with those people and be dragged down to their level, or you can hang around with successful people, or people that want to be successful, or mentors that are doing what you want to do or have done what you want to do, and create yourself an environment to basically smash it. Just one point on that, and we talked about investing before. I was lucky that I grew up with my dad who invested in property. So that just sums up, you are who you hang around with. So I'm still very, very close to my dad. Obviously, we're quite close. So when you're always around high performers, you're gonna smash it out of the park.
Well, you've got a different standard. This is the, if you're hanging around other people, if you want to be healthier, hang around healthier people because of their habits, and their habits will naturally fall on you. We see it in the fitness industry quite a lot. Trainers start dating each other. Why? Because they have things in common. They're standards, and they put those things in place. It's standards are obviously what sets your direction for your decisions, and those decisions will ultimately make your outcomes or determine your outcomes.
Oh yeah, 100%. It is the decisions you make each day. So when you wake up, do you want to win the day? Do you want to do what you need to do to get to the goal that you want to reach? Like, I think work ethic with students coming through, or new PTs, not just students, but new PTs in general, the difference in the work ethic from the successful PTs or the outstanding PTs compared to the average ones, and you're right, standards. They don't do the work. They think they're working hard, but then they're not really working that hard. They might put in half an hour worth of work.
Yep.
And they feel like they're working hard, but they're not really working hard. It's like one pet hate is people when they're on social media and they'll tell you they're on the grind. I'm just grinding so hard. I'm entrepreneur. I'm just working away. You're like, mate, people that are working hard are not posting that. They're just getting the job done.
And they're the same people that generally have this fucking morning routine that takes 3 hours before they get started. So they've got to wake up, they've got to meditate, and this is nothing against anyone that does any of these, right? But meditate, journal, their infrared saunas, their cold baths, their fucking, this, like they've wasted 3 fucking hours. I mean, by the time you finish that, someone else has already done a shit ton of other stuff. So, and then they start their day and then they wonder why they're not getting results, And then there's a thing, I'm a big planner. I like planning things, but I'm also about having it short and sharp so you plan, so you know what your outcomes are for the day, and then you're hooking in. If you're spending half your day planning, then, you could have just been getting shit done in the meantime.
Yeah, well, we both know you can be a planner or a doer. Everyone loves to plan. Dave, planning is sexy. Everyone loves to plan the perfect business, the perfect content. Everyone loves to plan. But when it comes to actually doing, like actually getting and generating leads, calling people up, following up with people, doing a bunch of initial consultations, that's all the hard stuff. No one likes doing hard stuff. That's the doing.
Well, it's the 80-20 rule, right? And now you know that 20% of the things that you focus on will give you 80% of the results. But the challenge is that most people don't want to do those 20%. So they'll go away from, and the other thing that we've got right now that's happening, I think, in the industry with the trainers is they want to do a lot of social media, a lot of advertising. So I'm doing my Insta ads and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. Yeah, that's good, and I wouldn't discourage that. I think that can be really important. Having said that, if you know that you're quite good on the phones and you can get a list, especially this is for the trainers in the club, you're missing out on this, because if you get a list of people, you've already got names and numbers. The whole point of advertising is to get a list of names and numbers to then start calling, right? But in clubs, you already have those lists. You already have those lists, plus they're already members in the club that you work in, right? So this is what kills me. And then they go, yeah, but I don't want to do those lists. I don't want to do those calls. It's like saying, I don't want to do inquiries, but I want new business. So how do you expect to get new business if you're not prepared to jump on the phone, especially with a list of names and numbers which you know are correct and they're already members in the club? Fucking kills me.
Kills you. Kills me. I'm the one that's been dealing with it firsthand for the last 6 years. You do. You speak to a trainer and you're like, what have you done all day for lead gen? And they spent 3 hours creating a post on Instagram or Facebook or a YouTube video. How many leads did you generate from that? 0. And then you go, all right, and you did 1 hour of calls. How many leads did you generate from that? 5. And you're like, well, why don't you just do more calls? Or you go through their customer database, and in their customer database, you always mention where you got the lead source from. So, and you'll see all their customers that have signed up all came from call lists or gym leads. All right, how many of them came from social media? 0. Yet you spend all your time on social media trying to post. Well, and I agree with you. Social media is a good thing. You want to get a presence out there and have brand awareness.
Yep.
But it's definitely more playing the long game, isn't it?
Of course it is. And you should be doing that at the same time. So just on that 80-20 rule, it's quite interesting. One of the guys that's come through, not only our business mentorship, but the 6-figure coach program as well. His name's Ryle. I'm sure he won't mind me talking about this, but he was feeling quite frustrated because he was spending so much time on building his Instagram and his presence on that. Now, he's doing quite well with his followers, etc. But the main thing he was getting frustrated with was the amount of ad spend and to get little or no result. And I said, mate, what's the major aim of your ads in terms of your Insta is, well, to get names and numbers. I want to build my client, keep building my client base. It's already great, but I want to keep building it. And I said, well, like, you're good on the phones, right? He's like, yeah, as soon as I get them on the phone, it's great. I connect with people, I can work out exactly what they want, and then I can provide it. I know I can. And I said, okay, well, the biggest challenge that you've got is then just getting people on the phone. I said, well, why are you wasting so much time on your Insta ads when you're an in-club trainer, which means that you have the advantage of these lists of phone lists of, and you know that the names and numbers are right, and you can get people on the phone straight away. And so he said, so do you think I should focus on those? I said, absolutely, mate. 80-20 rule. You're going to get 80% of your results from being on the phone. What you're doing at the moment is spending 80% of your time on creating things on Canva and putting forms in place and all these kind of things and putting funnels in place when you've actually got everything that you need in front of you. He focused on that, and instantly he's now doing really well. He's taken all the frustration out of his week, so he's enjoying his week's number one. He's not wasting as much time, so he's now time rich instead of time poor, and he's doing phenomenally well. So I just feel like he's a prime example. That's a guy as well. I mean, when you think about Ryland's journey, he's now just approaching 12 months, but he was a $600 a week pizza boy, and now he's a $2,500 a week trainer as a 19-year-old kid. Now, that's just a guy that goes and does what he says. Whatever you tell him to go away and do, show him the system, the process, work on this, mate. He goes away and works on it, and I feel like that's why Ryland has got the results that he's really got.
Oh, definitely 100% agree with all of that. Look, anytime you're trying to do online advertising, you're trying to take someone from the online space into the face-to-face space on the phone. So you're right. If you've got them on the phone or on the gym floor already and they're there, you don't have to waste your time trying to build 1 million followers to try and get business. And Ryland, I know who you're talking about. He's done well. Can you imagine at 19 years of age to be earning $2,500? Mate, when I was 19 years old, I was just trying to pick up chicks, drink piss and smoke weed. Basically, that's all I was doing. Well, I imagine how great my life would be if I'd started then.
Yeah.
If I'd started with that money and investing at that age,
you'd be on a super yacht instead of in a podcast, right?
100%, Dave. I wouldn't be speaking to you, that's for sure.
I'd be on the boat, surely.
No, good on him, man. Exactly right. And you see it all the time. You see trainers, you're right, spending all their time designing, planning, instead of just doing the grunt work, which is getting on the phone, calling people up and working your leads.
Well, I think that's the one thing they forget is the whole point of the advertising, of creating things on Canva, of the thumbnails, of the reels, of all of those kind of things is to build their client base, right? And the one thing that's going to build it faster than anything else, or the whole point of getting that lead is to get that person on the phone or to convert them into a regular investing client. But that's the part that they shy away from in the end. It's so much easier, and it's almost like you don't have to do the hard work, which is actually getting people on the phone if you're just focusing on the other stuff. And that's where we hear the whole, I'm grinding, I'm hustling, I'm working so hard, etc. But you're working on the wrong things. You're working on the wrong shit. What's the 20%? What's the one thing that's going to convert an interested person into a regular investing client today? If you could choose one thing, it's not posting a reel. It's not. The one thing is getting on the phone to a number that you already have and having a chat to that person and then converting that interested person into a regular investing client. That's what's going to make the biggest difference.
100%. And 0 sales have been done not on the phone. So every single sale is done on the phone, whether it's face-to-face, online, PT course, art show, everything's done on the phone.
It is, and the only guys that have managed to do it really well, where it's done through a website or something, where it's and actually design a cart and go about it, is those that have a really big following. Like, you've got to have that following, got to have that, and now these days even most people are going to jump on Trustpilot, they're going to go on Google reviews and all of those things to double check first before they purchase online. So unless you've got some of those there, then what you need to do is you need to get people on the phone. So if you don't have Google reviews, you don't have Trustpilot, you don't have all those things where people are getting to the cart, they're looking at it, they're going, you know what, I want that $89 a week package for my online, as an online trainer, but I can't see anything that's going to give me the trust that I need to pursue that purchase. Then they're going to get to the cart and go, yeah, no, better not, just in case it's a waste of money, just in case it's a scam.
Great. And how many traders do you know have a really large following? What percentage of trainers?
Well, I would say, if we're talking, I would say most less than 20,000. And even those, and I feel like we've seen this quite a lot. We've had some people that have started in the clubs that we know personally that have hundreds of thousands of followers. And I'm not sure that they've been the world's best trainer.
No, I know one person in particular that we're probably both thinking of, and that particular trainer started a club that I was at, and from memory, she had over 400k followers.
Yeah.
400,000 followers. Guess how many online clients she had, Dave?
We assume hundreds, but I'm going to say 5 to 10.
Can I lowball it?
Lowball it.
0. So the number was 0. So hadn't made any money online at all. 0. And there I was with my massive following, Dave. It was humongous.
500.
Yeah, I had 1,000 on Facebook and 500 on Instagram.
Yep.
And I had 20 online clients. Yep. And the reason is because you're right, it's trust. People aren't only going to buy for you if they know you, like you, and trust you. So most of all my online clients, they come from friends and family or my database of people that I trained in the past. I just worked my existing circle, my community, worked that list hard, and you build an online business before you know it.
Well, the thing with referrals are so valuable, right? They're most valuable because, number one, it hasn't cost you anything, right? So in terms of your advertising spend, very little. But then that person already knows, likes, and trusts you because you've been referred by someone that they know, like, and trust, right? So in terms of the conversion rate, it's so much easier. But here's the interesting thing, especially as an online trainer, they don't get a whole heap of referrals. And often it's because they're not doing a fantastic job with their online programs. So they think that, well, even if I get people started and I've got 10 online clients, if you ask those 10 for referrals, I'm not sure they give you them because I'm not sure that they're overly happy with a lot of the online trainers. Now, of course, there's some brilliant ones out there, and I know a few of them. And we have Lockie, who's part of our team and meal plan coach. And Lockie's great, and I've heard him on the phones doing his check-ins, and he's thorough. He's brilliant at what he does. And in fact, I think he's one of the best sort of body transformation specialists. He's able to get the information across to his clients. He keeps them accountable. And when he asks for referrals, there's no doubt he gets some. And I'm sure there's lots of trainers like that. However, I feel like most trainers that start in that online mode of training, they feel as though it's easier money. Right? And I'm going to go into it. I'm going to have trainer. I'm going to have people that are investing in my online programs, and then their customer service is poor or non-existent.
It's shit, Dave. That's what it is.
Yeah. So, and therefore, in terms of referrals and in terms of their Google ratings, in terms of anything, if they do build themselves up to a decent degree, they're getting 3 stars at best. I mean, most of us, if we see something as 3 stars these days, do you invest in it? If it's not 4 stars or above, you don't even contemplate it. And really, even if you're looking at just restaurants and things like that, if you look at a restaurant that's 3.9, you go, well, you think there's something wrong with it, right? It has to be 4.5 do you consider it. And then once you get yourself that 4.55, that's when you know it's a pretty good product or service. That's when you're willing to invest in it. And most trainers, in terms of the customer service, even if they're building pretty good programs, customer service, I guarantee it's not a 4 or above.
Well, especially online trainers, because what they try and do is they think because it's online that everything's online. I have nothing to do with the client. They buy online. I just check in with them once per week. I have nothing to do with them. And it couldn't be further from the truth. You need to create your community. You need to create your customer service even more, because when someone signs up for an online program, the biggest fear they have is I'm going to be left on my own. That's the biggest fear they have. And that's the only reason why people would choose not to do an online program. And it's why people quit online programs, because of lack of support. When you're a face-to-face trainer, it's easy to give that support because you're just going to see the person in the next session. Whereas in the online space, you have to create that support without being there. So it's having groups for your clients. It's doing proper check-ins. And on top of your check-ins, it's actually just sending messages throughout the week. You know, it's having all the support networks, all the videos they can refer to. If they can't get in contact with you straight away, they can refer to videos, frequently asked questions, other people in the group that are getting results. So I do more work on customer service with my online clients than I do with the face-to-face clients. More, because you've got to bridge that gap, which is the lack of face-to-face time.
Well, it's like a lot of traders didn't learn the lessons from COVID. When we all had to switch over to online, people had challenges, right? The trainers that had a little bit of a kitty to start with, they were able to, they were the ones that were actually able to transition, had a little bit of money to rely on to get them through that period, but then to really start online. And the one thing that we noticed is that everyone then loved online and online training, etc. And they had an online coach and all those for all of 6 months. Maybe by that 12-month mark, pretty much everyone felt like they were over it. And they wanted a lot more face-to-face interaction. You know what? I'm not going back to the gyms. We've never seen the gyms busier now, right? The gyms are busier than they've ever been. But, if you think back to 2020, 2021, COVID, most people are like, I don't think I'll go back to the gym. Well, it lasted 6 to 12 months because what you're really lacking is that interaction. And the one thing that you're looking for from a coach is constant interaction. It's to make sure that you are doing the right things, that that person's getting the most out of you. So, if a trainer thinks to themselves, I'm going to be an online coach and then I'm going to design these programs, cookie cutter programs where it's sort of like one fits all, send it out to these clients, they'll just do it, I'll just check in once a week and make sure they're okay. Well, I can't imagine that person's going to get fantastic results. If they're not getting results, guess what? You're not getting referrals and you're not getting good reviews. And that means that your business is definitely not going to grow.
Yeah, 100%. Now, one of the things that you mentioned there, COVID, if there was ever a time in history where there was a separation between outstanding trainers and average trainers, in the blink of an eye, half the trainers industry went out of business, just like that. But the outstanding trainers probably made more money than they ever did before. Now they weren't paid any gym rent. They probably converted all their clients to online for that period of 6 months, made more money than ever, and the average ones are out of business.
Well, it's not just the average ones, right? It's also the ones, if you've, the one thing that we see when trainers do start to make money, and a lot of those guys that are $2 to $3 grand a week trainers, I'm not sure they make the best investments or the best choices in regards to where they invest their money. Now, for instance, I feel like the trainers that did well in that transition period, as I said before, they had a bit of a kitty to rely on. So they had sort of that 5-10 grand maybe sitting in the bank, as we sort of teach in the business mentorship, where you want to have that security account. If things go a little bit up and down, you've always just got that security to rely on. For the guys that were overspending and probably buying, if you're cruising around as a trainer in a Merc, and the Merc's $400 or $500 a week, and you're making your $2K a week, you can get away with it, right? But if you're not really putting any money away, when shit does happen like a COVID, then you're cruising around in a Merc, you've spent all your money on teeth and tats, and now you're not really investing in anything that can help you through this period of time.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm someone, as you know, I like to save, invest my money. I wasn't stressed during that COVID time. If anything, it was actually less of a workload, because all of a sudden I'm not doing as many one-on-one sessions as I was doing in small group training sessions. I had more time on my hands. Money was still coming in. Obviously I had investments. I'd saved money, so I wasn't stressed at all. And then I knew as well, as soon as gyms reopened, exactly what has happened is they're going to be busier than ever. Half the industry's gone. So you're just going to be left to pick up all the clients. So that straight after that period, after COVID, was one of the busiest times I've ever had as a PT.
Well, even during it, like that time, once again, as an RTO, like we were, I've always been pretty diligent with the money side of things and having that kitty on the side. So when that happened, I really looked at it and thought, this is an opportunity for us. And if anything, we invested more in our advertising at that point. And I watched all the other RTOs pull their money back, and they weren't advertising. We were spending more, which means that point there, our student base grew massively. Once the gyms opened back up, we were able to do our practical, but I think that put us in a really, really strong position. It's almost, there was a bit of a change there where we'd always been competing against the big guys, but the big guys pulled back, and that allowed us to really get on top of that.
Yeah, well, I grew my online business massively during that period, but then went back when the gyms opened, started my small group training business again, but I'd kept the online business. So all of a sudden you've now got two great businesses that are making a lot of money. So it was great coming back. And then speaking of putting money aside and investing, which is off topic probably from fitness, during that time where people were fearful, one of the best times to invest.
Exactly right.
Since COVID to now, property's gone crazy. Yeah, I would have made like $1 million worth of wealth since COVID to now with properties. So just from that time.
Interesting thing with with our students when we're first starting, we talk about having that kitty and putting some security and things aside. If you're a trainer, what would be the ultimate investment when you're first getting started? What are the things that you've recommended to your guys in that period where you think, you know what, this is where you should be investing that little bit of money that you have at the moment?
Well, I think at least you need to put 10% aside. At least. I think that's a good starting point. Look,
Where's that go, that 10%?
You're putting in some sort of a savings account that you don't touch.
So that's for your growth.
Yep, 100%. For your wealth growth, that's what you're doing.
Yep.
Once you've got enough that you can invest in something, I don't think the investment vehicle is necessarily what matters. I think what really matters is the fact that you're putting money aside and then you're eventually going to invest into something that's going to grow. After that, it's up to you to seek out experts in the area that you want to invest in, or become an expert where you want to invest in, or at least upskill your knowledge. As long as you're upskilling your knowledge on what to invest in, and you're crossing your I's or crossing your T's, dotting your I's, then your money's going to grow. So I don't think it matters if it's shares, properties, crypto, whatever it is. As long as you've done your due diligence, you've learnt about it, then you'll make better decisions. For me, obviously, I'm biased towards property because I've put all my surplus cash straight into properties pretty much my whole career and done very well in it. So I like that. And most people out there, most of their wealth lies in the property that they own. So even if they only own one, that's where most people's wealth lies. So I'm biased that way. But I think it's just putting some aside, making sure you're investing. If you don't know where to invest it, you seek out mentors or advisors, and those mentors and advisors will either tell you or teach you where to invest it. So, and then the other place, which is not really a money investment, but probably the best investment you're ever going to make, which I'm sure you agree, is investing in yourself.
Well, of course.
Investing in your knowledge, upskilling yourself. How many courses and books have you done over the years to upskill yourself? Give us an estimate.
I couldn't tell. And I know that it's, in terms of just the courses and things I've done alone, it's over 100K.
100K, there you go.
I know that for a fact, yeah. So, in terms of books and things like that, obviously books are a bit cheaper than seminars and conferences and things like that. But for me personally, like, it's about the experience. When I go there, I switch on and I work really hard. So I'm taking notes as soon as I've finished. If the seminar's a 10-hour day, it's over 4 days, for instance, then at night is another 3-4 hours of me just going to work on what I learned. So what I don't want to do is I don't want to just take notes and just leave it sitting in a book. So I'm taking those notes, but then I'm getting home and then generally working on the computer to put this in place or that in place. I'm sending emails to the team, hey, can we work on this? Can we do that? Can we start the process, etc. So that, I feel like a lot of people go to seminars and they become seminar groupies, right? They love the sensation of a seminar. And I've done a lot of Tony Robbins stuff. I love Tony. Had the privilege of meeting him, also being on the microphone with him at one of the events and going back and forth with some of the things. But I've seen so many times where people go to a Tony Robbins event and they get really pumped up and they walk away from it and they're all excited. They're going to do this and going to do that. And then they're like, yeah, but I've got a busy week this week, so I'll start on the weekend. And they get to the weekend and they're tired and they have a look over their notes, but they don't do anything with it. Then the next week, the motivation starts to simmer down a little bit. And next thing, all of those great notes and all the things that they said they were going to do just never happens. So I think that's the main difference. Once again, with the business mentorship, why I really wanted to keep that implementation part there, that 8 weeks where the guys are implementing certain things as they're going. It's not just an education, it's an implementation. You build your business. So you learn and build your business, learn, build your business. What the course isn't, or what the program isn't, is it isn't just an online education thing, which I know a lot of other coaches or gurus are putting out. The thing that pisses me off with those guys is you see the posts and the way that they go about getting new members. And that's generally, I'm going to try and make myself look good here. Once again, these are the guys that generally you don't know about the business that they're telling you about. I mean, with our business, for instance, you go back, we started it 15 years ago. We've been around for a long time, and to have a multi-million-dollar business these days that we've been doing for 15 years, it tells you that we know a little bit about it, right? So even if you're thinking to yourself, will I invest in that or not? At least you know that someone's coaching you that's walk the walk, talks the talk. With these other guys, it's about, and often it's them hiring a Merc, someone else's Merc, right? And sitting there getting some photos with a Merc. I think young Josh was telling me the other day, the guy that does our content, that you can actually hire a jet. The jet just sits there. You go and sit on it, and you can take photos and do some videos and shit in it. I mean, fucking what? And this is the way that a lot of the guys are going about it. So how can I make myself look like I'm doing really well here? And if I look like I'm doing well and I'm in private jets and I've got my Merc and my Ferrari or whatever it might be, now they don't tell you that they've rented it. But then, unfortunately, these young guys that are coming through go, yeah, that's what I want, and this guy's got that. So I'll invest that little tiny bit of money that I've got into them, the stuff that they've worked so hard for, and they give it to those assholes. So just look at that and I just go, that kills me. And that's one of the main reasons, once again, why we wanted to build the program, is so that, people are investing in an education with a great mentor like yourself that's actually going to take them through and actually get results.
Yeah, you're right. And it is the actual implementation. It's the actual doing, and that's how you actually learn. So even when we go through the content in the course, and yes, they're learning, but they're going to learn even more when they actually implement it. And all those little questions that you have, that you don't know you have until you start doing it, and they can come back in on the Zoom sessions, get the answers they need quickly and move forward.
And get clarity around it. I think that's the biggest thing that I didn't have. I thought I was doing the right thing, but if someone would have said, yeah, Dave, just keep going, you are doing the right thing. And I'll be like, yeah, but it's not really working at the moment. If someone would have just sat there and said, yeah, buddy, but you've only been doing it for a week or 2 weeks or 2 months, it's going to come. This is the right thing to do. Then you go, okay, cool. Head down, ass up, put the blinkers on, don't listen to anyone else. And eventually, guess what? No shit, it comes. And that's because someone's put you in the right direction. If you don't know that, if you don't have that person that says, actually, mate, this is close, but what you really need to be doing is just this over here, and you just change things by 1 or 2%, then all of a sudden you get these really great results. But that's where a really great coach and mentor comes in play.
Yeah, 100%. So any business model that a PT has, I would have done successfully somewhere. So when they come to me with a business idea or how to implement it, I can straight away, just through experience, know exactly what they need to do and what they need to get rid of straight away. So you can just save so much time. Like the amount of traders I'm mentored where they bring something to me and I'm like, you just need to change this. Or that's never going to work. I've already done it before. Just get rid of that completely. This is what's going to work. Follow that. Or like you mentioned, where they're on the cusp of like something working really, really well and they don't realize it, and you just got to just change this one thing, like something in your offer, something in the lead gen that you're doing, something on your sales that you're doing, something on your follow-up. Just change that one thing, and then all of a sudden,
even something you're saying or not saying during your phone conversations, that will just change everything, right? And just how to downplay that, and we've got that in the sales part of the program. Mate, another thing that the guys generally, they want to create their own things, create their own systems, but generally when we've never created systems before, we spend a lot of time creating a system that doesn't actually work. So one of the other things that we put in the program is obviously template systems and things like that, so they can just work off something that they know already works. I want to talk about as well, we in the fitness industry, we seem to have this, we're distracted quite easily by bright, shiny shit. And we see people especially posting on socials about, luxury items or cars or whatever it might be. And then I feel like a lot of people get distracted with that sort of stuff, and that's their aim, to have those kind of things. What are your thoughts on that?
well, anyone that has luxury items, you have to ask yourself, how are they getting those luxury items? It's going to be very, very rare to someone to have a $60,000 to $100,000 car that they paid for in cash out of what they got in their bank account. So if someone's driving around with a $100,000 car, they've bought it on credit. So they're paying that back with interest. So that's costing them money every single week just to look good. That sort of stuff you buy after you've made your money. So after you've invested your money, you've built your money, then you get your luxury items rather than just racking up debt. And people don't actually realize that. So when they see people on Instagram with fancy cars, holidays. Dave, holidays are expensive. If you want to go over to America for 4 weeks or Europe for 4 weeks, well, you're probably looking at 10, 20 grand holiday. How many people do you know have 10 or 20 grand in the bank? There's not a lot. So how are they actually paying for that holiday? They're getting into debt, Dave. That's what they're doing. They're getting into debt. So they're getting themselves into debt, and that debt is not making them any money. It's not an investment at all. just so they can look good and feel like they've got this luxury lifestyle. We know a few very, very successful trainers who are paying for a lot of things in cash, but that's the 0.11% of the population who are paying for cash.
Unless they've got a sugar daddy.
Yes.
They're paying it.
Yes.
So they're buying the cars or the handbags or the trips or whatever it might be. The gyms for them.
Yeah, exactly right. 100%.
So in terms of, I think one thing, especially with the fitness industry, we see the posting of all of those things, and it's obviously to look good, and it's to create a certain perception of success. And when people see that perception of success, then they go, you know what? Well, that's a person that I can follow or I can be like. Because what we do know is that people like people that they either that they see like themselves or that they want to be like. So when people go out and buy these luxury items, etc., that's all well and good. But the one question that you've got to decide, especially as a new trainer coming into the industry, is what difference do you want to make? And by cruising around your Land Rover or your G-Wagon or whatever it might be, what kind of a difference are you making? So, look, if you've done a really incredible job and now you've got a great car and you love cars, it's fantastic, right? And I think people should have good stuff, especially when they're working really hard. I mean, sometimes I treat myself to certain things when I've worked really hard, But I think that, for others, it's maybe digging themselves a pretty big hole more often than not, or they're working their ass off. They're earning their $2,500, $3,000 a week, but they've got $2,000 going out in, literally in expenses. And now they've bought themselves or dug themselves a hole by living, in a nice place that they now begrudge. They've got this car, which they've got this bigger payment on. They've normally got a balloon at the end of that, meaning they're only paying off maybe 70% of the value of the car, and they're leaving that 30%. So now even if the value of the vehicle drops, they can't sell the vehicle because now they'd be selling it for less than it's worth. It's like, well, now it's worth $100,000, or was $100,000. Now it's only worth 80, but I've still got 85 left on the loan. I'd be losing 5,000 if I sold it. So now they've got no money, and they feel like they're out of options.
And then you need to ask yourself, what happens if business doesn't go well? You're in a world of shit, aren't you?
You are.
100%.
Interesting thing about content at the moment. You know what? I've always been very mindful about the content that we've put out, especially in the early days. I mean, social media wasn't around when I first started, but I see it these days where people are just almost throwing any shit, just hoping it sticks. I mean, some of the stuff I see, and especially when they're talking about exercises, for instance, this exercise doesn't actually work this muscle group. It more works this muscle group. And you sit there and you go, well, based on anatomy and based on what joint angle that is, and which muscles that then produce the movement, it does work that muscle group. But yet people are they've got no anatomy knowledge. They're what we call their knowledge, their ice is so thin, but yet they seem to have the confidence of just chucking shit out willy nilly. It's like there's no backlash if they do put stuff out there and it's not right. People just don't seem to give a shit.
No, well, you're right. There is a lot of rubbish out there, and it's obviously lack of knowledge, isn't it? That actually don't have the knowledge. And that probably says a lot about a lot of courses that are out there that, they're not getting skilled, or they're not developing their skills and their knowledge in the courses that they do to become a PT. Or I think one of the bigger reasons is I think there would be heaps of people out there who claim to be a trainer that have never actually gone through the course. It's not hard on your Instagram handle to write online coach and then just post whatever you want. Who's checking on your insurances, who's checking on your qualifications. So I think there'd be a lot of that going on. And I think in general, with the courses these days, other courses aren't as in depth. The knowledge of the students aren't as good. They're coming through, and they just post anything. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the other part is, the part that's frustrating me most at the moment is what they're doing to try and back themselves up a little bit is just using the corny saying, research says. Research suggests, research says. It's like, well, which research? And if you ask them, hey, which research are you talking about? You won't get anything back from them because it's just an easy out for them. It's just, I've got an idea in my head. I'll just say that research says, and then they push it out. It's, there's no accountability around that.
Yeah, there's zero accountability around that. And half the time as well, I think they're probably going on pages that they follow or accounts that they follow. Well, if that account said it, I'm just going to steal that idea, put it on my page because it sounds good. And you're right, there isn't accountability. But I think the pretenders always get found out eventually, and the cream always rises to the top. And those coaches or trainers that have the skills and have the knowledge eventually do rise to the top. They do get found out eventually.
I think you see, your Jordan Petersons and those guys, they talk, well, research suggests blah, 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 and they go into it. And they're pretty credible people. And they're going to have the research to back them up. And then other people watch guys like him say, hey, research suggests, and then they jump on it, hey, research suggests you're going to get more out of the, particular part of the exercises than they just use it when they've got no grounds for that whatsoever.
Yeah, 100%. And you're wondering where they getting the information. Where are they finding that information? Like, what are they studying? Where are they going online? Is it just Googling it? Are they reading studies? Are they citing studies?
Well, that's the thing. If you're going to say research, surely have the research papers there or something to refer back to. I don't think most people do.
And do you reckon there's a bit of bro science going on there as well?
Well, of course. But even, some really credible people, sometimes they talk about bro science, and then some of the things they're saying contradicts a lot of the stuff that I've read up on now. And I also know with different studies that you can make a study come out a certain way and look a certain way. I remember right back when I first got into PT and a lot of the research that I was doing with a lot of the written published studies with the conclusions there. And you'd have to really read up on the methodology of how they got to that conclusion, because some of whether 3 sets was better than 2 sets or 1 set or whatever it might have been. And they had this measuring stick, which was I remember reading one which was about a tennis serve. So their tennis serve speed increased because they were doing 3-set training over 1-set training. And then another one would say 1 set's better because of, and they'd come up with another because they were able to do more push-ups. It's like, well, how is that even relevant? So you've really got to read up on it. We see the food companies doing it all the time, right? Research suggests, or it's this or it's that. Why? Because they did the study, or they paid someone to do a certain study with the outcome going out like this, so that then they can push their certain motive.
Yeah, exactly right. You can use study and you can manipulate it for any argument that you want, really, can't you? And I love the studies out there that you see the study and they'll take like one bicep muscle, and you work the one bicep muscle for 8 weeks straight and it grew this amount, and you're like, okay, what were the trainers? Were they beginner trainers, intermediate, advanced? It's when you actually do a deep dive, you laugh and you're like, oh, this is a bit of a joke. You could word it anyway. And then all of a sudden people are going to cite that study for the next 10 years that proves this theory correct. And when you look into it, they got 10 people who'd never trained a day in their life to do bicep curls for 10 weeks.
Exactly right.
But you actually have to read the study, don't you?
You do. Mate, in terms of investing, we spoke about investing before, but I think, and you asked those questions about how much I'd invested in different courses, etc. And I think where I always seen the value was investing in myself, because there's different ways of making money, right? So the first way generally, and I got this from Rich Dad Poor Dad originally, Robert Kiyosaki, which once again, one of the courses I went to, got to meet him. But it's earned income. The second is your passive income or business income. So setting up something where even if you're not required to be there, now originally you're going to have to set something up, but it means that particularly like as a trainer, for instance, if you set up a boot camp, got it running, then you've got a trainer that comes in and takes that boot camp, and then you can be setting up another one in the meantime, or you can be home with your feet up. Who knows? It's passive income to a degree. And then you've got your investment or your portfolio income. So when we talk about trainers making money, and I think one of the great ways to look at it, especially if you are a trainer, or often what happens is that trainers in clubs or people are discouraged from being a trainer in a club because they feel like they can't grow a business. This is, when I look at you've gone about it a completely different way. What you've done is you've earned a lot of earned income. You've become a great trainer, high value trainer, and you've been able to earn your 3-4K a week. You grab some of that and then you're putting it into other investments. Now, the thing is that even if you can't sell your PT business that you're making out of a club, you can sell all of the investments that you've invested into, like houses, property, shares, and all of those other things. So for a lot of people, what they tend to do is go, you know what, I'm not going to be a trainer in a club. I'm actually going to start my own business because I can grow that and eventually sell it. The challenge is that they don't have the business skills to be able to grow it and then even sell it. They would have been much better off investing in or just becoming an IBO, an independent business owner in a club, starting with very little risk, and we'll get to that in a sec, and then going on, doing great things, earning great money. Yes, while you can't sell that business, what you can do is sell all the investments that you're investing into with the extra income that you're making.
Yeah, 100%. And, you do have to do, if you're going to be successful in anything, even if you are just going to start a company, you're going to have to do some of the grunt work eventually. You have to do it to start off. So you can't get around that. You're not going to just start a business to passive income. So you can earn really good money just starting as an IBO, just in a club. You can earn great money. And I always looked at it when I started a one-on-one business, is I use that as my base, and then I'd add layers onto it. So you start with one-on-one. Once I'd build that up, then I added group training onto it. Another layer of the business starts making more money. Then I layered online onto it, and I started getting money from there. Then I had an online subscription, which was actually totally passive. And the whole time I was investing that money to the side in property. The property's actually made more money over the last, 7 years than my whole PT income combined. However, the more you get into it, the more passive it gets. Like right now, just on the online subscription business, Dave, I do nothing. I write a program once a month. It takes me 20 minutes. And you're making hundreds of dollars a week from it. But I didn't get there until I had the base. That's the key. You build the base first, you build your database. From there, you just add layers onto it. All right, now I'm booked out. I'm going to start doing some groups. Once that's all booked out, now I'm going to add online. Once that's booked out, now I'll have a subscription model going on top of it. But the problem is that what traders want to do, that come through the course, they want the end one straight away without adding any of the layers to their business, not doing any of the work.
Biggest problem traders have is they focus on passive income when you need earned income first to be able to produce passive income. So the more earned income you have, the more you can put away into an investment, which will then give you that passive income. But for most traders, they start and they go, you know what, I want to be an online trader because they see that as more passive income, rather than looking at it going, okay, how much money can I actually earn here? If I was able to do a really great job, deliver a really great sessions, programs for my clients, customer service, build my business to 3, 4, maybe even with a combination, then I'll really start to bring online programs in 5 and beyond. Then you can drag a lot of that out, put that into an investment. That's where your real wealth grows. As you've said, since then, your net worth's probably gone up a couple of million in the last 3 years.
Oh, exactly, 100%. But that wasn't able to happen unless you build the base first.
And that base was all around the earned income.
100% was all around earned income.
Yep.
And I agree. And with the, you mentioned some good points there with traders wanting to go straight to a passive income straight away. You're right. And they're trying to jump the queue. And the one thing I've noticed, and we know some very successful online trainers, the majority of them actually started as an IBO in a club. And what they did is, when they started in the club, what they were building, like, yes, they were getting a lot of earned income, so they were doing quite well, but they were building systems as well.
Yeah.
They were building systems, and the same systems that you build in your face-to-face business are the same systems you're going to use in your online business. Literally, the only thing that changes from face-to-face to online is you're just not there physically holding the hand of the client. Everything else is exactly the same. So your lead gen's the same, your onboarding's the same, your customer retention's the same, how you run your program is exactly the same. The only thing that changes is you're not holding their hand.
So I'm sure there's a lot of coaches out there that have just started online and done really well. The ones that I see become most successful are the guys that have actually started in clubs and then, or at the same time, use a combination of both, start their online training as well. Now, they've got the advantage of relying on the club and the leads that come in. So, I mean, they're not always having just to advertise and put things out onto socials. They've actually got, half a dozen to a dozen leads per week that they've got the opportunity to turn into regular investing clients. They've got this income that's coming through face-to-face, and then they can start to build their online. Plus, the advantage of doing it that way as well is that when people are investing face-to-face, you've got this money where you can take some of their money and invest into your online stuff to put your products and your services and all the systems that are required to build a really great online brand in place. So when traders also, traders in clubs, they've got the ability, once that person's come through, now even if it's come through in the club, and they've done a really great job and they are transitioning to an online, then more often than not, if the client really loves training with them, then they're going to go online with that person. So the face-to-face trainer that leaves the club starts their online business, and now they've already got online clients because they've just taken those, dozen, 2 dozen, sometimes even 3 dozen clients with them, and they've got that constant income coming in. So it's easily the best and easiest way to start an online business.
Yeah, definitely. 100% agree. That's how I started my online business.
I think one book I want to talk about, it's called Mastery. And I got young Josh, our content guy, to read that. It was the first book I got him to read when he came on board. And so it teaches you a lot about, mentorship or apprenticeship. And I think that in most trades these days, we still have an apprenticeship. And our apprenticeships go for about 4 years, but back in the day, they used to be about 7 or 8 years, because it used to take you around about that 7 or 8 years to really master your trade and become a master of what you're doing. I think one of the challenges that we have these days, especially with the students that are coming through, their expectations of being a 6-figure coach or of having this huge income are almost unrealistic. It's like, yeah, but I want to be on that in 6 months' time. It's like, I get that. That would be cool. And I want to be, a billionaire in 6 months' time, but it doesn't really work like that. And it's this slow burn that they've got to get used to. And I think that mastery, it really teaches you about, well, what are the knowledge and the skills that I need to go on and actually build a really good business, rather than just looking at the quick fixes sometimes. So if the mastery, maybe even the concise, I think it's called, the smaller version, I think that's a really great book for people to read when they're first starting out.
And on your point about mastery, you would have heard this before, but they say it's 10,000 hours to become an expert at something, right? So you're talking about trainers that all of a sudden want a 6-figure business in their first 6 months, but they're just babies. They're just completely beginners at the moment. So it takes a bit of time to become an expert. I did some calculations about a month ago from when I started as a PT, and I was in the range of somewhere between 18,000 and 20,000 PT sessions. So obviously I'm mastered the craft of actual personal training, but also to get these people actually booked in and clients, guess what you have to master? You got to master lead gen,
sales, initial consultation process, price presenting.
So you become a master of those as well. So you're putting in 10,000 hours of practice of all those things as well. And so, so you do. And after 15 years in the industry, you do look at trainers in their first 12 weeks to 6 months. And if they're not at $2,000 a week, they want to pack it in straight away.
Yep. It's too hard. It's not working, etc. Yep. The amount of times, you hear of so many successful people just saying that they were so close to giving up a lot of the time. And, it's just that 1 month that might have been the difference where everything just starts to come together. It's just that one idea that needed to sit there and marinate in their minds. So they understood it and then put it into place. But that doesn't happen often in 6 days, 6 weeks, 6 months. It's more like 6 years often, and traders that go on and do a really great job, they've done an apprenticeship for 4 or 5 years, they've toiled away in the clubs and things like that. And then they've started to develop their online stuff. And the reason they got together so well with the online stuff is because they've done the apprenticeship face-to-face, as you mentioned before. They've learned the business systems as a face-to-face trainer, and then that can be easily implemented as an online coach.
Yeah, this trainer I'm mentoring, so I've been mentoring for about a year. He came up to me the other day and he said, I reckon I would have quit already at least 20 times in the last year if it wasn't for you not only just guiding and upskilling, but just being there as a support network. That's what I love about the business mentorship. The fact that trainers that come through the business mentorship, when it is getting hard, when they want to give up, when they're not quite sure what to do, all those annoying little questions that they have, they can go to someone, get the answers, or find the system, implement it, and that might be the difference between someone quitting or pushing through the first year, which we know the first year's the make or break year. And if they can get through that, then most likely they're going to go on and become 3, 5, 10-year trainers.
Well, the challenge, mate, really is that most people don't get the opportunity to find a really great mentor. The question that we've heard so often, this is why I put the program in place as well, was, well, where do I find a really good mentor? Where do you find one? And I've been lucky through times to have good mentors at different stages. I've had really great, when I first started out, Benny was a great mentor for me, but he didn't have a whole heap of time. So ultimately, that didn't become a great mentor. So even if you know great people, if they're not investing time into you, then they're not probably going to be a great mentor for you. Through unfortunate circumstances, I come across my mentor, Mark, who's still my mentor to the day. Helps guide me not only with my with my business and my finances and my investments and those things, but even with my personal life to a degree, because that's someone that's 10 years down the track. So he sees things that I don't see yet. He looks at things, and when I think, and I actually made a post about this the other day about even young guys, 3 weeks for a younger person. When things aren't going well for 3 weeks, it feels a lot longer than that. And even at 3 weeks, when things aren't going great, you start thinking about, well, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I should give up. Maybe they're right, Whereas someone to sit there and guide you and say, hey, look, mate, just being honest with you, 3 weeks is such a short period of time. Hang in there, 3 weeks, 3 months, even when I go through a 3-month bad period, where our results are down or things like that, 3 months isn't that long in the scheme of things. And when you've been around for a little while, and that might, even if you start young, you're 19, 20, and you're at the age of 23, 24, you now understand that there's going to be good months and there's bad months. And one bad month isn't enough for you to think, what, fuck it, I'm out. It's enough to go, okay, well, something's not quite right here. Where have I let my guard down? Where's my standards drop? What am I not focusing on? Am I focusing on the things that aren't getting me the best possible results? Where do I need to put my focus now these days? So I think, without a doubt, if I didn't have my mentor over the past 10 years, this business would look very different. I'd be a very different person. So, I think that overall, when I look back, having Mark as my mentor has been one of the most important things that's happened in my life. I feel that the really cool thing is now the students get you as an opportunity to have you as a mentor, and that makes me, super proud. Number one, that you're involved in the business. And number two, that the guys will get a really great mentorship, and they're able to have that person to help guide them and mentor along the way. So.
Well, the great thing about it is that I'm, as you know, super passionate about it. I love helping new trainers. I love guiding them. I like seeing people be successful because I know how much it's done for me. So for me, I started back in Melbourne back in the day. So I was a trainer in Melbourne. I was able to go overseas, live in the UK for 3 years, PT over there. All the money I made with PT, I travelled around Europe with, came back with more money. I met my now wife in the fitness industry. I've then come back to the Gold Coast, invested my money in property, done really, really well. So if anyone asks me, has the fitness industry been good to you? It's the greatest thing I've ever done in my life. Really, the best thing I ever did in my life is I had the choice, Dave. I finished the business degree and I finished the PT course at the same time. So I had a decision. I was like, should I go for an office job or should I chase something I'm really super passionate about? And that was a crossroads moment right there. I chose to become a personal trainer and look at everything it's done for me. So when it's my opportunity to give back and to, like you said, a lot of great trainers who might give up if they do it on their own, just because one day they might lose a couple of clients and they think it's the end of the world and they pack it in. But if you just have someone guiding you in the right direction and say, hey, it's okay, just get back on the phone today, you'll be able to get another couple of leads in the next hour that will make up for the clients that you lost. You might even be able to save the clients, but now you're up an extra couple of clients from the leads that you got. So it's great to be involved.
I mean, the other thing is when trainers are thinking about quitting, and the one thing that was, I guess, a blessing in disguise was, even when I think back to my course, when I was having to go through and do, the assignments and things like that I didn't want to do, the real blessing in disguise was I was doing a job I hated. So I became a butcher by trade originally, not because I wanted to, just because that was the first job that came up. And then I had to actually rely on it again to go through my course. So I needed money to pay for the course. Fucking hated butchering. Like, I hated. I mean, when you think about it, it's just cutting up dead animals. That's what you're doing. Like, I mean, it's so shit. And for me to go to work every day, to get up at 3:30, 4 o'clock, to be at work at 5 o'clock and cut up dead animals before I'm going to do my course, I fucking hated it. But it was the one thing that drove me. The thing I kind of get a little bit excited about or motivated about with a lot of the students that come in, they're in the same position as me. They've got jobs that they fucking hate. And I think, you're going to make it. you'll make it because there's that much pain. When you think about, will I do my assignment today or not? And you think, no, I can't be bothered. But then you also think, but I hate my job. I hate my life circumstances. It affects everything else in my life, and I'm not standing for this any longer. Then you'll sit there, you'll get your assignment done. When you've had a really shit job and you're a trainer and things aren't going great, I tell you what you also do is you think back to the alternate, and that is going back to a job that you despise. And so when you think to yourself, well, will I just quit, or will I dread, will I get myself through this hard part and do the things that I know I need to do? Once again, where the mentor comes in is they tell you exactly the stuff that you need to do to get yourself out of this bit of a hole and to, and to gain more success, so you don't have to go back to that shitty job that you didn't want. Because also, that a shitty job affects your whole life. That's the thing.
Yeah, 100%. Like before, when I was putting myself through university, I was packing shelves at Woolworths. After doing that for 7 years, when I was like, I think 18 or something like that, tell you what, you never want to do that again. It's much easier standing there, motivating people, counting reps, kicking their ass, than it is doing hard labour from 10 p.m. at night to 6 a.m. in the morning. That reminded me of a student at the moment who, an HFA student, so he came on, started the gym I was at, and he reminds me of Woolworths because he uses that Woolworths as well. So he's working in the frozen veg section, or the frozen food section, and his goal was within 12 months to move into full-time PT.
Yeah.
And you're right, that pain point, and he had to do it. He had to do part-time, working at Woolworths still, while he built his PT business. And that pain of going every day, doing that shitty job that you hate, is enough motivation. And then 6 months later, 12 months later, he's now completely full-time, doing 40 sessions a week. We'll never go back to Woolworths ever again.
Well, I think the advantage also of doing a shitty job, it builds the one thing that you need to be successful in business, or one of the real key components. That real key component is resilience.
Yeah.
So if you have to keep turning up to a job that you don't want, and then you've also invested in a future that you do want, you're building resilience. And I feel like that's the one thing that really lacks with a lot of people, especially the younger generation that's coming through at the moment. They've got hardly any resilience. When things get hard, it's just like, yeah, but I've got this going on or that going on, or you don't realise like that. And they come up with the amount of excuses. And I guess even the lack of work ethic is, it astounds me. They think a big week is 40 weeks. A big week, if you're in business and you only did 40 hours, I mean, in all seriousness, you cannot say that's a big week. I just feel like people's standards when they go into owning a business or operating a business, or they want these big things. I mean, if you want big things, you have to expect to do big hours and work on big projects that you'd rather not do sometimes. You have to build skill sets that you don't want. For a lot of people, yeah, but I don't like being on the phones. Yeah, I get you don't like it, but do you want to earn this amount of money? Yes, that's my major goal. Okay, cool. Well, you're going to need to learn a skill set that allows you to earn that amount of money, whether that's the phones or whether that's graphic design or whether that's lead gen or whether that's ads or whatever it might be.
You're 100%. The lack of resilience these days, it's crazy. So I've never told you this, I don't think. So when I moved to the UK, I didn't know anyone in the UK. So I went over by myself, didn't know a single person. So I was living in a hostel. When I was living in the hostel, I signed a contract with Fitness First. And my first month at Fitness First, building the business, I'm living in the hostel.
Unreal.
So you got to, if you want it bad enough, you got to do the work. And you mentioned 40 hours per week. That's the starting point. And we both know that most newer trainers that start, or any trainers, not just newer trainers, are not doing anywhere near 40 hours per week of work. And I always look at it this way. Just say someone said to you, it's going to take you 40 hours a week consistently to get to 100K per year. Well, now it's your decision on how fast you want to get to 100K. So if you do 40 hours consistently, you're going to get there. But if you do 20 hours consistently, it's going to take you double the amount of time. So it depends on you on how hard you want to work and how fast you want to get there.
So I feel like when I go into a lot of the classes these days and I get the opportunity, I don't get to spend a heap of time with them anymore. But when I do, the common question I get is, should we start in the club? Should we do online? Should I do a combination? And I'm always like, well, I think a club's a great way to go, and we went through why that is plenty of times. But one of the biggest things that I get or pushbacks I get is the students talking about the rent. Yeah, but it's a lot of rent, and I'm really worried about that. It's like, yeah, but if you're looking to start a business, there's always going to be an element of risk, right? And all the students are happy with that. Yeah, I understand that. Now, let's just look at how minimal the risk is in terms of an IBO. So meaning an independent business owner, you're operating your small business out of a health club or a gym. So what you generally do is pay a startup and a bond of roughly around about $1,000, depending on which clubs you go to and a bunch of other things, right? So roughly $1,000. So you pay that and you can almost just say goodbye to that. It is what it is. And then you'll get probably some pretty ordinary looking business cards. You get yourself up on some sort of wanky board or something like that no one really reads. So there's not a lot for the students with that $1,000. However, what they do get is they get started in a club, and the club's got, it's a multi-million-dollar facility. It's got heaps of different equipment. It's got members. It's got everything that they need, and their risk is so small now. So what they have is generally a lead-up phase of 3 months, where for the first month you're paying basically zero. Second month might be $100 a week. Third month's $200 a week, and then you go to full round, which is $300. Now, when you look at the startup cost of only being $1,000 and the option, even in your very first week, if you were able to do a couple of initial consultations to convert that person into an investing client, you're going profitable in your first week. Now, obviously, it's a very small profit. It might be $50, $100 a week profit, but you've gone profitable. Now, when you look at most businesses, it takes businesses at least 12 months generally to get anywhere near a profit. And even then it's so small. Most businesses really look at 2 years, 3 years until they're making a really hefty profit. That's the ones that are doing pretty well, right? If you were to, let's take a restaurant, for instance, and this is one of the examples I give to the students. If you were to start a restaurant, what kind of a startup would you have for that? If you were to then do a fit out, tables, chairs, bars, you've got you're purchasing cool rooms and appliances and all of those kind of things. I don't know where it would be, but I can't imagine you get started for any less than, $150K. I think you'd be close to $200K. Then you take into consideration staff and paying staff and then buying produce. And then just say you buy a whole heap of stuff in for the weekend and the weather turns nasty. Then even the people that have booked in are cancelling because they're going, I'm not going out in that. What's your worst case scenario? Well, your worst case scenario is you've got a heap of money going out and not much coming in. As a trainer, your worst case scenario is, say, what you rent for the gym, which is in most gyms between $300 and $350. That's your worst case scenario. So when you look at it, even if you absolutely hated it, you despised walking into that club, then well, how many sessions do I need to do a week? It's basically 5 to 6 sessions a week just to break even. So your worst case scenario is that you keep doing your old job, right? And that you go in and do 5 to 6 a week and you're not out of pocket. That's your worst case scenario when you start like that. The risk is so minimum. And when I put it that way to a lot of the students, they're like, what? You're right. Why don't I have a crack then? Why don't I give it everything I've got? And the guys that do give it everything they've got are generally pretty successful. The guys that are like just, dabbing their toe into the water, so to speak, generally they're the ones that don't do overly well.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. It's one of the few businesses that has such a low barrier to entry. So low, like $1,000 to start, and like you mentioned, you'll be profitable in your first week. Your worst case scenario is, if I'm only ever even the worst trainer in the world can get to 5 sessions after 12 weeks.
Yeah,
that is not hard. The gym will throw leads at you to get you to 5 sessions. When you do those 2 free sessions or 3 free sessions that you get the gym leads, 30% of those people are going to say yes no matter what, because they're already in their mind, sign up at a gym, and they're going to say yes to whoever's sitting in front of them. So you're never going to have 0 sessions. Anyone can get to 5 to 6 sessions in 12 weeks. And then if that's your worst case scenario, well, if you're only doing 5 or 6 sessions a week, they're not hour sessions, Dave. They're like 45-minute sessions. So you're not even working the full 5-6 hours. So you can just work the rest of your time, which is completely fine.
So I just think that the risk becomes minimum when you're starting that particular business. For trainers that are thinking about, well, should I or shouldn't I'd suggest, hey, look, first of all, make sure that you've got your ducks in a row. Make sure that you understand what you're doing and what your outcomes are. You've got a basic business plan. I'm not talking about one of those 9 to 30 page business plans that you're never going to open up again and you don't really understand what's in it anyway. I mean, one of the advantages of ours is we do a 3-page business plan. It's so simple that you know exactly what you're trying to achieve for the year, for the quarter, for the month, even week on week. And if you understand those things and you go about it, and you've got, once again, a really either good PT manager or a really good mentor, then I can't see it not working for you. And even if it didn't work for you, you're looking at what, $300 to minimise or to cover your expenses.
Yeah, exactly right. So it's usually going to be a 6-month minimum term. So you're only going to get to your full rent until the 12-week mark. So the worst case scenario is $300 for 12 weeks. Everyone's going to get to at least 5 sessions. So you'll be able to cover it and you just work the whole time. But the good thing about the business, so the biggest fear of the trainers is obviously the rent and the leads. Am I going to get enough leads? Well, the beautiful thing about starting in a club is as long as you're willing to do the work, the leads are there. Not only will the gym provide you leads, there'll be a member call list that you can use, and you can do all your own lead gen. And the best thing about what we do in the course is we give you templates for everything. So you're going to have a system for how to do lead gen, all the different strategies that you can do. And there's 50 lead gen strategies that we have in the course, and you're going to have a system for every single one. You're going to have a system how to convert the gym leads that you get handed. You're going to have scripts for calling members up. So as long as you're willing to do the work, that's the only thing. Yeah, it's all there. The only thing we can't do is we can't make you do the work.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to do the work, then there's no reason you're not going to be successful. And it is one of those jobs, which the best thing is, if you really knuckle down, you work hard, within 6 months, you can be on your 2-3K a week. That is,
absolutely,
it's hard work to get to that, and not everyone's going to do it, but it's still,
seen it.
Yeah, it's still,
Guys have done it.
100% it's doable.
So look, I think if you're a trainer that's struggling at the moment, trainer or coach that's struggling at the moment, you're thinking, well, what's the one thing? What's the one thing that will change? And this has always been the question that I've asked myself, and things are going well. What's the one thing that will change everything? And it's normally always been, well, I need to work out what's going wrong, and then I need to fix it. So what's the answer to that? Now, it's not that easy, because if everyone just knew the answers, they'd do it, right? So this is where normally I always come to the conclusion, I need to find someone that specializes in this area. So the question I ask is, what's the one thing that would make the biggest difference? And generally, it's having a mentor. The mentor is the one that will help fix the challenges. They'll give you the guidance, they'll give you the systems, the knowledge, the processes, and they'll lead you in the right direction. So once again, like you said, if they're willing to do the work, then generally the mentor is always the answer.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, the problems that people have, in their mind, it's a much bigger problem than what it really is. Whereas your mentor can look at it and go, hey, you just need to change this one process in your business, and that's going to make all the difference. You're saying this one thing on the phone over and over and over, or you're doing this one thing in your initial consultations over and over and over, or you need to be doing this to generate leads. Like, you're not, for example, 9 times out of 10, the trainers are struggling. Then they don't generate enough leads and they don't track their leads. If they just focused on those 2 things, that's going to solve all their problems. And literally, the gym that you start at, you can pick up a member list and sort out the problem with a proper script, like, immediately. It's not like hey, I've got to work at this for the next 12 weeks. You can solve the problem in one day.
Well, an interesting thing about that problem, if you look at the problem, you've got to work out what's the problem costing you. Now, this is a lesson I got from my mentor. He'd always think just a little bit different and help me to think differently. And his question was, you've got a problem there. What would you pay to fix that problem? What would you pay to fix that problem? And if you know that problem's costing you 5, 10, 15, 20 grand a year, then if someone offered you a product or a service that was only 5 grand a year to fix a problem that's worth 20 grand a year, would you do it? Now, just based on simple maths, the answers are always yes, but so many people sit there and go, yeah, but I'm not sure if I've got that at the moment, or I'm not sure if I can, or if that's the right, even when the solution is provided, often people are hesitant towards it. So I think if you've worked out the exact solution and who that person is, whether it's with us or whether it's another coach or mentor or whoever that might be, my suggestion is get in and fix the problem, because otherwise it's going to become a bigger problem. And if the problem gets so big, it only leads to one thing, and that's normally you quitting or finishing up. So with why we've made the mentorship the way that we have, it's a $50 a week membership, and I feel like if you have a problem, and it's a fairly significant problem, if you're not willing to invest $50 a week to fix that problem, then I'm not sure that you probably should be in business.
Yeah, exactly right. And for the cost of not even one half an hour PT session a week, but something that could elevate, double your business, triple your business, quadruple your business with the systems to follow for the cost of one PT session, and not even a full PT session, a 30-minute PT session. And both of us have paid multiple thousands more on courses than what this one is. I reckon even just getting their hands on one module would be worth the cost, really. But all the information they're going to get.
Well, the mentorship itself is worth at least 5 times on the value in which we ask. So, and I can guarantee people that. It's, it will change. If you're a new trainer or coach and you're thinking, what's the answer for me? What do I need right now? I can't push the business mentorship with Phil more than myself. Obviously, I've filmed a lot of the content, but that's you that's going to be mentoring and guiding them through, mate. And I can't wait for you to be sharing your knowledge and wisdom and helping them get to that next level. Obviously, the main goal with us is to have the guys, or the graduates that come through, being a 6-figure coach and beyond. And I know you're the man to do it.
Yeah, and it's definitely achievable. I'm passionate about helping trainers. Like, obviously, I've got my own business. I'm passionate about weight loss. That's what I focus on. But my next passion is also helping PTs, better their lives, doing something that they love.
Good man. Hey, sitting here with Phil Kolaric, we've done a little podcast for you. I really hope you enjoy it. It's more focused on new trainers and coaches and how to make it, not just make it in the industry, but how to make it big. We talk about a business mentorship program, so there's a little bit more information about that if you would like. We would love to have you involved in that if you are looking for a coach or mentor and you would like to make it big as a PT in the fitness industry.